The red carpet was buzzing like an electric wire, cameras flashing non-stop, fans cheering, and reporters calling out every celebrity name. The evening was supposed to be glamorous, a showcase of stars and dignitaries mingling under the dazzling lights, but no one expected what was about to unfold, an encounter that would immediately become the talk of the town. Steven Seagal, the martial arts legend known for his calm demeanor and imposing presence, walked down the carpet with his signature stoic expression. His dark sunglasses reflected the chaos around him, and the way he carried himself left no doubt. This was a man used to command, respected in every room he entered. Yet tonight, his composure was about to be tested. From the crowd of military personnel and VIPs, one figure stood out. A high-ranking general, tall and imposing, moving with a sense of authority that instantly drew attention. He approached Seagal, not with a nod or handshake, but with a bold, unexpected gesture. He grabbed Seagal by the hair. The sudden motion shocked everyone in the vicinity. Cameras froze mid. Click, fans gasped, and whispers rippled through the crowd. For a split second, time seemed to stop. Steven's face, usually unreadable, flickered with surprise. His body tensed, every muscle alert, as the crowd watched this strange, almost cinematic moment unfold in real life. The general's hand lingered for a heartbeat too long, a smirk of misplaced confidence on his face. It was a move that no one saw coming. And yet, the air was thick with anticipation, as if everyone instinctively knew this encounter would explode into something unforgettable. People instinctively pulled out their phones, recording the moment, eager to capture every detail. The murmurs grew louder. Did that just happen? Steven Seagal, by the hair. The crowd was suspended in a mix of shock and curiosity. Everyone wanted to see how a man like Steven, famous for his martial arts prowess and calm authority, would react to such an unprovoked challenge in public. And just like that, the stage was set. The lights, the cameras, the audience. All of it became the backdrop for a confrontation that no one would forget. Every eye was fixed on Steven Seagal, waiting to see whether he would stay calm, retaliate, or turn this tense moment into something far greater than anyone could have imagined. The question on everyone's mind: what would Steven do next? The crowd was still buzzing from the shock of the general's bold move. Steven Seagal stood frozen for a moment, the sudden tug on his hair sending a jolt of disbelief through him. For a man used to controlling every situation, accustomed to being respected and unchallenged, this was a new and unexpected provocation. The red carpet, with all its glamour and fanfare, suddenly felt charged with tension, as if the flashing cameras had become spotlights on an invisible stage of conflict. Steven's eyes, behind his dark sunglasses, flicked up to meet the general's gaze. There was a fleeting moment of calculation, a silent weighing of options. Retaliation would escalate things immediately, possibly embarrassing both parties in front of the crowd and the cameras. Staying calm, however, could assert dominance in a far subtler, more powerful way. His martial arts instincts, honed over decades of practice and discipline, told him to control his center, to not let the unexpected fluster him. The general, sensing a reaction, tightened his grip slightly. A few nearby onlookers gasped, and whispers swept through the crowd. Someone murmured, "Did he just grab Steven Seagal by the hair?" Others fumbled with their phones, already recording the tense scene. The buzz of anticipation grew louder with each passing second. Everyone waiting to see whether the martial arts legend would explode or maintain his composure. Steven's hands subtly shifted, resting at his sides. There was no sudden motion, no flinching, just a calm, measured pause that amplified the tension. Then, almost imperceptibly, he took a slow, deliberate step forward. The cameras caught it, the flashes reflecting off his polished shoes and dark attire. His voice, low but commanding, finally broke the silence. "Let go." Just 2 words, but the calm authority behind them resonated far more than any shout could. The general froze, the smirk on his face faltering. He had expected Seagal to react with anger or a quick defensive move, something that would humiliate him in front of the crowd. Instead, the martial arts master's serene command made the act of aggression feel smaller, almost petty. Murmurs of surprise ran through the audience. "Well, did you see that?" one fan whispered while another fumbled to keep their phone steady. It was in this brief, tense pause that Steven subtly demonstrated his control. A flicker of his wrist, almost theatrical, adjusted his posture. A silent display of readiness. The general's grip loosened slightly. Sensing the shift, the martial artist's aura, calm yet unshakable, radiated authority that even the bold general could not ignore. Every eye was on him, and the crowd seemed collectively to hold its breath. Then, with measured poise, Stephen leaned in slightly, a controlled response rather than a violent one, signaling that any further provocation would be his choice to respond to, on his terms. The general, momentarily caught between pride and caution, loosened his hold completely. Camera lenses zoomed in, capturing the subtle victory in Seagal's composure. If you were standing there witnessing this intense moment, what would you do? Would you react immediately like the general or stay calm like Steven Seagal? Comment below and tell us. Don't forget to include your city or country. The murmurs in the crowd shifted from shock to admiration, though quietly, as no one wanted to disrupt the fragile standoff. Fans who knew Seagal's reputation whispered among themselves, "This is why he's a legend, calm under pressure." Never predictable. Others, less familiar with martial arts mastery, simply felt the suspense of a moment suspended in time, an encounter that could have spiraled out of control yet remained astonishingly contained. For Stephen, the calculation was clear. He would not humiliate the general publicly, but he would assert dominance through composure. Every subtle movement, every slight shift of weight, conveyed his message: "You may try to provoke me, but I control the narrative." The cameras caught the contrast perfectly. The general's boldness against Seagal's unshakable calm. Slowly, Seagal's expression softened just enough to indicate that the immediate threat was neutralized, but the power dynamic had subtly shifted. The crowd instinctively recognized it. In this battle of wills, control was the ultimate victory, and though no one clapped, the collective tension released in whispers of awe, camera flashes, and quiet murmurs of respect. And yet, the question hung in the air like a storm cloud waiting to break. What would happen next? Would the general escalate further? Or would Stephen's calm have already turned the tide? The stage was set for something bigger, something that would shock the audience even more, in ways that no one could yet anticipate. The red carpet, with all its glitz and glamour, had suddenly transformed into an arena of silent tension. And every viewer, every fan, every camera in that room was now part of this dramatic, unfolding story. The tension on the red carpet was palpable. Every flash of the camera, every whisper from the crowd seemed to magnify the charged atmosphere between Steven Seagal and the general. After the initial shock of the hair grab, the air seemed to vibrate with anticipation. Would the confrontation escalate? Would Steven retaliate? Or would his calm authority continue to dominate the situation? The general, still standing close, sensed the shift in power. Seagal's measured composure, his unwavering gaze and controlled stance were more intimidating than any sudden movement could have been. Yet the general's pride would not allow him to retreat easily. He straightened his shoulders, leaning subtly towards Stephen, as if to assert that the first act of aggression had been no accident. The crowd held its collective breath, sensing that a second act might unfold. Stephen's eyes, piercing beneath his sunglasses, never wavered. He took a subtle step forward, closing the slight distance between them, but not aggressively. Every movement was deliberate, a silent assertion of his presence. The general seemed to notice this, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. He expected a reaction fueled by anger, a physical display, or a loud verbal reprimand. Instead, Seagal's calm, calculated demeanor made him seem untouchable. Whispers spread through the onlookers. Fans and bystanders began recording with their phones, the tension too compelling to ignore. "This is insane," one murmured. "I can't believe he's just standing there, calm as ever." Another said, "Steven Seagal isn't reacting. This is incredible." It wasn't just the fans. Reporters and photographers alike felt the suspense. They knew this was more than a red carpet encounter. It was a moment that could become viral within hours. But the general was not willing to let it end there. He leaned slightly forward again, his hand twitching near Seagal's shoulder, as if to assert dominance, but hesitated. He could feel the eyes of the crowd and the cameras on him, and the subtle shift in energy around Stephen made him reconsider. The calm aura, the sense of controlled power emanating from Seagal, was disarming. Stephen, aware of every subtle movement, mirrored nothing. He remained centered, controlled, and confident. Then, almost imperceptibly, he tilted his head slightly, a small motion that conveyed alertness and readiness without aggression. It was a silent reminder. He could escalate if needed, but only on his terms. The general's smirk faltered as the realization hit him. The man he had challenged by a bold, aggressive move was not intimidated. In fact, he was fully in control. The crowd leaned in, collectively holding their breath. Every onlooker, from security personnel to fans, sensed that the next moment could determine the outcome. Stephen's presence was magnetic. The tension was electric. Yet the martial artist still made no aggressive motion, no sudden strike. Just a calm, calculated dominance that left the general unsure of his next move. And then, the crowd murmured again, their excitement growing. This was not just a confrontation, it was a demonstration of restraint, skill, and mental mastery. Seagal's silence spoke volumes. He had neutralized the immediate threat without a single hostile gesture, proving that composure could outweigh brute force. The general, realizing the crowd's attention had shifted, subtly eased back, a hint of doubt and embarrassment crossing his face. If you were standing there witnessing this intense moment, would you stay calm like Steven Seagal or react immediately like the general? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to mention your city or country. But even as the general hesitated, the story was far from over. Steven's subtle dominance had shifted the energy, yet the audience could sense that a larger climax was imminent. The red carpet was no longer just a walkway for celebrities. It had become a stage for a high-stakes standoff, one where composure, strategy, and presence of mind would determine who truly held the upper hand. Every eye in the room was fixed on the martial arts legend, anticipating the next move in this silent, yet electrifying, showdown. The whispers of awe, the flashes of the cameras, the murmurs of the crowd. They all combined to create an atmosphere where anything could happen. The general was no longer the aggressor. Steven Seagal had subtly seized control, not through aggression, but through confidence, discipline, and mental mastery. The stakes were higher than ever, and the next moments promised to shock everyone present. The tension on the red carpet had shifted subtly, almost imperceptibly, but those paying attention could feel the change in energy. Steven Seagal, calm and composed, had taken control of the situation through sheer presence and disciplined restraint. The general, once aggressive and bold, now seemed hesitant, caught between pride and the realization that he had underestimated the man standing before him. But for the crowd and the media, the real revelation was just beginning to unfold. Whispers began to circulate among the onlookers. "Is that really Steven Seagal?" One fan murmured, craning their neck to get a better view. "The martial arts legend himself," another shouted, almost in disbelief. "He's handling that general like it's nothing." Phones were raised everywhere, cameras zooming in to capture every subtle gesture, every calculated movement, every fleeting expression. It was no longer just an aggressive moment. It had transformed into a spectacle of strategy, skill, and quiet authority. The general, realizing the growing attention from the crowd, shifted slightly. His smirk faltered as he noticed the way people were recording, whispering, and clearly admiring the calm dominance of Seagal. He could feel the weight of the audience's eyes on him, and a flicker of doubt crossed his face. What had initially seemed like a bold, dominating act now appeared reckless and unnecessary. The tables, subtly but unmistakably, were beginning to turn. Steven remained motionless, controlled, and serene. There was no overt retaliation, no dramatic outburst. Just a poised figure standing his ground, radiating authority. His gaze swept across the crowd briefly, acknowledging their presence without breaking focus on the general. Every subtle nod, every measured step conveyed confidence and mastery. The audience began to realize that this was no ordinary confrontation. This was a demonstration of discipline versus impulsive arrogance, skill over bravado. Whispers escalated. "He's not reacting, he's completely in control. Even the general looks like he's second-guessing himself." The realization hit some observers like a thunderclap. Steven Seagal had effortlessly flipped the dynamic. What had started as a public act of aggression by the general was now being interpreted as a miscalculated move, undermined entirely by Seagal's unwavering composure. The crowd began murmuring louder, a mixture of awe, tension, and excitement rippling through the area. The general took another cautious step back, clearly calculating the next move. He had expected an explosive reaction, perhaps even public embarrassment for Seagal. Instead, he faced a man who, through stillness and precision, had already gained the upper hand. The crowd, now fully aware of Seagal's identity, reacted collectively. Some applauding quietly, some recording feverishly, others simply staring in awe. The realization that the martial arts icon could command such respect without lifting a hand was sinking in. Steven's subtle gestures, shifting his weight slightly, maintaining eye contact, adjusting posture, told a story in itself. Every move was deliberate, every pause calculated. He was not just reacting to the general's aggression, he was controlling the narrative. The cameras captured it all, Seagal's calm, unwavering stance against the general's fading confidence. This silent battle of wills had already reached a pivotal moment, one that the audience would remember for years. The murmurs grew into an almost tangible energy, the kind of tension that makes people lean in, forgetting their surroundings. "He's handling it so perfectly, like a master," someone whispered. "The general doesn't even know what to do next." It was a moment of public realization. In this contest of dominance, the power had subtly shifted, and the outcome, though unresolved, was now clearly leaning in Seagal's favor. Have you ever witnessed someone completely take control of a tense situation without aggression? Comment below and share your story. Don't forget to mention your city or country. As the crowd absorbed the unfolding drama, a collective understanding emerged. This was no ordinary red carpet incident. It was a lesson in calm, measured authority. Seagal had not only maintained his composure, but had also turned the spotlight onto the general's impulsive behavior. The audience was now fully invested, eagerly waiting to see what would happen next. Would the general escalate further, or would Steven's dominance remain unchallenged? Every camera, every phone, every eye in that room was focused entirely on the two men. The red carpet had transformed into an arena of silent tension, and the stakes were higher than ever. The public realization was clear. In this battle of wills, composure, skill, and presence of mind had become the ultimate weapons. And Steven Seagal had already demonstrated mastery over all three. The air on the red carpet had shifted completely. What had begun as a shocking, impulsive act by the general, the audacious hair grab, was now a stage for Steven Seagal to assert himself with calm, commanding authority. The crowd, sensing that a turning point had arrived, leaned in collectively. Cameras trained on every subtle motion. The tension was nearly tangible, a storm hovering in the room, ready to break. Steven's eyes, piercing beneath the dark lenses of his sunglasses, never left the general. Every muscle in his body was relaxed yet alert, like a coiled spring capable of precise action. The general, sensing the weight of the audience's gaze and the sudden shift in power, hesitated. His initial bravado had been undermined, not through aggression, but through Seagal's unparalleled composure. The whispers and gasps of onlookers amplified the intensity of the moment. Then, with deliberate precision, Steven moved. It was not a flurry of martial arts strikes or an over-top display of strength. It was a calculated gesture that immediately reasserted control. A single step closer, measured, confident, and deliberate, brought him into the general's personal space, but with an unmistakable calmness that left no room for further aggression. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. "He's not just standing there, he's taking over the moment." The general attempted to speak, perhaps to reassert authority, but Seagal's subtle dominance, his presence, the way he radiated unshakable control, stopped the words before they could fully form. He did not shout. He did not strike. Instead, he leaned ever so slightly, a motion that suggested awareness and readiness, signaling that any further provocation would be entirely at his discretion. The aura of control he exuded was palpable, and the general's earlier confidence began to crumble under its weight. The crowd's reaction was instantaneous. Cameras clicked rapidly, fans gasped, and whispers of admiration spread through the room. "Look at him. He's handling it perfectly," someone exclaimed. Another fan, recording on their phone, muttered, "Steven Seagal just turned the whole situation around without raising a hand." Every viewer instinctively recognized that this was not merely a confrontation. It was a masterclass in composure, strategy, and silent authority. At this moment, the general, realizing his miscalculation, took a cautious step back. His hand, once bold and forward, now hesitated. The power dynamic had shifted decisively. The once aggressive move now appeared reckless, An error in judgment that had been expertly neutralized. Every subtle movement from Stephen reinforced his dominance, each gesture communicating calm strength, awareness, and readiness. Seagal's response, though controlled, also carried an unmistakable lesson. He demonstrated that power does not always require aggression, that authority is often established through composure and mental mastery rather than physical force. The general, previously confident, now wore a flicker of embarrassment across his face. The crowd noticed, cameras capturing every nuance. The red carpet, once a mere showcase of glamour, had become an arena where skill, discipline, and presence of mind triumphed over impulsive arrogance. If you were in this intense moment, would you stay calm like Steven Seagal or risk escalating like the general? Comment below and let us know your strategy. Don't forget your city or country. With the tension diffused, Stephen finally allowed a subtle nod, a gesture signaling that he had regained complete control of the interaction. The general, chastened and humbled, stepped back, his earlier aggression now overshadowed by Seagal's quiet dominance. The crowd erupted, not in chaos, but in astonished applause and murmurs of respect. Every camera and phone captured the moment perfectly, ensuring that this dramatic confrontation would be replayed countless times across social media. For the spectators, the lesson was clear: composure, awareness, and strategic control can command any situation, even when faced with unexpected aggression. Steven Seagal had transformed a potentially humiliating moment into a demonstration of authority and mastery, leaving the general and the entire audience in awe. As the crowd absorbed what had just transpired, it became evident that this encounter would become legendary. It was no longer about the hair grab or the initial shock. It was about the mastery of presence, the silent display of power, and the unshakable confidence that had turned the tide. The red carpet in that instant had become a classroom in control, and Steven Seagal had delivered the lesson perfectly. The red carpet was no longer just a glamorous pathway for celebrities. It had become the epicenter of a moment that everyone present knew would be talked about for weeks. Phones and cameras captured every nuance of Steven Seagal's calm, masterful handling of the general's bold aggression. Clips instantly began circulating among media personnel on the scene, their live feeds and social media posts creating a ripple effect that was only beginning to escalate. Fans who had initially gasped at the hair grab now erupted in admiration. "Did you see how he handled that?" one whispered, barely able to contain excitement. Another shouted, "Steven Seagal didn't even raise a hand, and he completely took control." The audience's reaction was unanimous. Respect for his composure and mastery had replaced the shock from moments before. It wasn't about the incident itself anymore. It was about how the martial arts legend had transformed a tense, potentially humiliating encounter into a display of authority and poise. The general, once aggressive, now looked embarrassed under the intense scrutiny. His smirk had disappeared, replaced by a subtle recognition that he had miscalculated. Even allies around him whispered quietly, some shaking their heads, realizing the lesson Seagal had just imparted without a single overtly aggressive act. His move, intended to intimidate, had been neutralized entirely, leaving him in a rare moment of public humility. Social media feeds exploded within minutes. Clips of the hair grab and Seagal's measured response were being shared across platforms, accompanied by captions highlighting his calm dominance. Hashtags like #Steven Seagal Mastery, #Red Carpet Showdown, and #Calm Wins were trending in multiple countries within hours. Fans, martial arts enthusiasts, and general viewers were dissecting every frame of the encounter. Memes and reaction videos began circulating, celebrating Seagal's composure while poking fun at the general's momentary lapse in judgment. Despite the public attention, Seagal remained composed. He acknowledged the crowd with a subtle nod, his serene demeanor unaffected by the online storm his actions had sparked. In that moment, the contrast between the impulsive aggression of the general and the controlled, quiet power of Seagal became the defining takeaway for the audience. The lesson was clear: skill, presence of mind, and calm strategy could turn the tables even in the most unexpected situations. Have you ever seen someone handle a tense situation with calm and skill? Share your story in the comments below and tell us where you're watching from. Reporters rushed to capture interviews, fans clamored for autographs, and celebrities nearby expressed their awe. "I've never seen anything like that," one murmured to a camera crew. He didn't need to escalate. He just took control. The general, meanwhile, quietly retreated from the spotlight, no longer able to assert the dominance he had tried to claim moments earlier. In the eyes of the public, the narrative had shifted entirely. Seagal had not only defended his personal space, but had done so with elegance, intelligence, and undeniable authority. As the footage went viral online, the story quickly crossed borders. News outlets and entertainment pages from multiple countries reported on the incident, praising Seagal's poise and criticizing the rashness of the general's initial aggression. Clips racked up millions of views within hours, with viewers analyzing the sequence frame by frame, admiring the martial artist's timing, composure, and strategic control. The incident became an example of how calmness and presence of mind could command respect, even in high-pressure situations. The red carpet itself, once merely a venue for glamour, had become a stage for an unforgettable display of strategy, control, and personal authority. Spectators who had once been mere bystanders now found themselves discussing, sharing, and reflecting on the power of restraint. The lesson resonated widely. Composure and intelligence were often more powerful than force or impulsive action. For Steven Seagal, the moment was both understated and definitive. His reaction had turned a potential humiliation into a masterclass of controlled authority. The general had been humbled, the audience had been captivated, and the world had witnessed an unforgettable red carpet moment that would live on in clips, conversations, and viral posts for years. The aftermath of the red carpet incident was unlike anything the media or fans had ever seen. Within minutes of the encounter, videos and photos of Steven Seagal calmly handling the general's bold hair grab began to circulate across social media platforms. The clip, initially captured by fans at the scene, exploded online, trending on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Within hours, millions of viewers across the world were watching, sharing, and commenting on the legendary display of composure and authority. Fans marveled at how Seagal had transformed a potentially humiliating situation into a masterclass of control. "He didn't even flinch," one comment read. "The way he handled that general is pure genius." Another fan joked, "The general just got schooled by a martial arts legend, without even a fight." The combination of suspense drama and sheer skill had captivated audiences globally. Memes, reaction videos, and discussion threads proliferated, each highlighting the calm, calculated manner in which Seagal had taken charge. Even news outlets jumped on the story. Headlines across international websites emphasized the incredible poise and discipline of the martial arts icon. Video segments dissected his every subtle gesture, praising his strategic control and mental mastery. Experts in martial arts and behavioral psychology weighed in, explaining how Seagal's calm, composed demeanor was a textbook example of authority maintained through presence, not aggression. The story had become more than just a viral moment. It had become a lesson in human behavior, power dynamics, and self-control. Meanwhile, the general, once confident and bold, was now the subject of quiet embarrassment. Interviews from bystanders indicated that he had clearly underestimated the situation, and the public reaction left him with little room to defend his impulsive behavior. In contrast, Steven Seagal's reputation was strengthened, not just for his martial arts prowess, but for his unwavering calm, intelligence, and ability to dominate a tense situation with subtlety rather than force. For viewers, the viral clips became instant examples of how composure, confidence, and skill can turn any unexpected confrontation to one's advantage. Comments poured in from every corner of the globe. People from the US, Europe, Asia, and beyond expressed admiration, shared similar experiences, and debated how they would have reacted if they were in Steven's shoes. The story transcended borders, connecting viewers through a shared fascination with courage under pressure. If you believe skill, calmness, and strategy always win over aggression, hit the like button, type respect in the comments, and subscribe for more unbelievable celebrity moments. As the story continued to trend, fan pages and social media influencers began creating compilations, slow, motion breakdowns, and commentary videos. Each clip reinforced the same narrative. Steven Seagal's calm mastery had not only diffused the situation, but had also captivated millions around the world. His response became the benchmark for handling tense, high-pressure situations with elegance and control. By the evening, hashtags associated with the incident were trending worldwide. Discussions flourished about the importance of self-control, strategic thinking, and the power of presence in leadership. The red carpet incident, initially shocking and tense, had evolved into an inspiring global phenomenon. Steven Seagal had turned an unexpected act of aggression into a timeless lesson in patience, strategy, and the subtle art of dominance without force. Ultimately, this moment would be remembered not for the general's impulsiveness, but for the way Steven Seagal handled it, calm, precise, and unwavering. It was a reminder to viewers everywhere that real power often comes from mastery of oneself, and that composure under pressure can command more respect than any act of aggression. The red carpet, the crowd, the cameras, and the millions online had witnessed a rare, unforgettable display. And now the world was paying attention.